Hi, my name is Andy Mestel. I was born in the United States and now live in Israel, from where I am speaking to you today. I would like to share with you our personal family story. My Oma, Sarah Fingerhut of blessed memory, was raised and met my Opa in Berlin, and they started their family. Here's their family, 3 young daughters. In watching your interview for the Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, she tells about the home where she grew up and shares very specific details of festive Shabbatot and Jewish holidays. It paints a clear picture of the wonderful life she and the Amster family had in the years before the Second World War. I'll get to that in a second. Oma and Opa and their immediate family, which includes my mother Doris Mestel, first fled to Belgium and then to the United States, but she always was weighed down with guilt by the fact that she didn't convince her parents and younger brother to escape early enough. A small group of our family went to Berlin 2 years ago for the opening of the exhibit about the polenAktion, and to lay Stopplerenstein outside the home of Burl, Leah, and Yuda Amster in the Mitte area of Berlin. Here are the stones. My great-grandparents and uncle were caught in Europe during the Holocaust and were eventually deported to Auschwitz, the notorious concentration camp. The story of the polenAktion and how it affected our family starts in Galicia, Poland, where Bernard Burl Amster was born in 1882. His future wife, Leah, was born 4 years later in Bavovo, Poland. This couple started a family. Sarah, my Oma, was born in 1910, which was followed by Solomon a year later. In 1912, the young couple decided to emigrate to Berlin to avoid the draft into the tremendously anti-Semitic Polish army. In Berlin, the family built a new life. In 1913, Golda was born, and in 1919, Yehuda was born. They lived in Charlottenburg before moving to Dragerstrasse 48, which was later renamed Max Beerstrasse after the war. This was a nice neighborhood where many Jewish families lived. As my Oma said, when you left the apartment, you did not need to even close the door. Here's a picture of the Amster family. This is Burl, Leah. Here's my grandmother, Sarah, Solomon, Golda, and young Yehuda. Burl Amster opened a kosher meat store, and his wife worked alongside her husband. The family life was harmonious, and my Oma remembers her parents as the most wonderful, good-natured, and kindest people in the world. The Amster family were part of the Orthodox Jewish community of Adat Yisrael in Berlin. The children went to Hebrew school twice a week, in addition to gym classes and music lessons. After the transfer of power to Hitler in 1933, a law was introduced that led to the prohibition of kosher slaughter. This directly affected the business of Burl Amster. The meat shop business suffered a sharp loss, and there were no longer any goods for sale. In October 1938, the business was closed completely because the Amsters were deported to the Polish-German border in the course of the so-called polenAktion. In the days of 27th to the 29th of October 1938, 16,000 to 18,000 Jews who had lived in Germany for decades as Polish citizens were deported to the Polish frontier. After the deportation to Zhivazhin in October 1938, Leah Amster was able to return to Berlin after a short period and was determined to follow her daughter Sarah to Belgium. In December 1938 or January 1939, she went to Belgium and lived with Sarah and her family in Antwerp. Burl and Yuta were still held in Zhemajen until the summer of 1939, until, like some others, they were allowed to return to Berlin. Soon thereafter, Burl and Yuta tried to illegally cross the German-Belgian border and were arrested. The family arranged for fake Belgian passports and were able to obtain the release of Burl and Yuta. In late 1939, they entered Belgium, and as my Oma reported, the Amster family was reunited for a short time before my Oma and Opa and 3 young girls managed to escape to the United States in 1940. Here's a picture of the green card of my mother that allowed her to gain entry to the United States in early 1940. Burl, Leah, and Yuta then moved to Brussels because they thought it was safer to be in a big city while they awaited their fake passports to try to manage an escape out of Europe. Sarah Finger had hoped so far to bring her parents and younger brother to the US, but that never happened. By the beginning of the Second World War and the conquest of Belgium by Nazism, the Amster family, like many others, were exposed to the repression of the Nazis. In December 1943, all 3 were taken to the Maleli Jewish collection point. From there, Leah, Burl, and Yuta Amster were taken to Auschwitz with the transport numbers 344, 345, and 346 on January 15, 1943. They were subsequently murdered. For them, the polenAktion was the first real step of running for their lives, and it therefore represents to us the beginning of the end for these dear relatives that I never met and no one alive today remembers. We greatly appreciate the efforts of all who put this polenAktion memorial together, including Christine Niebeck, who reached out to me to share my thoughts. We will never forget and appreciate that others won't either. Thank you very much, and shalom.